dig.
No, I don't even have to dig, so it makes like a nice little start, because this is the raw material, the innards, the juicy parts within, so to speak. Anyway, let me find my remote. We'll be talking about prehistoric weaponry, weapons as specialized artifacts to help people meet their basic needs. We're going to talk a little bit about when weapons date to, how they're used, what kind of sites you find them on in Florida. We also had a, oops, I forgot that thing's right there. We had a demonstration, kind of hands-on portion of this evening also, which was going to take about half our time, and we may decide not to do. So I brought a few things to explain what we might do another time, and also maybe we'll meet out at the old plaza or somewhere we have a little more room to really get our arms warmed up and toss some spears. Trigger. But going back, archaeology is a study of people of the past. We don't study dinosaurs. We don't study animals unless people ate them or used them. And here in Florida, that goes back to about, depends who you talk to, 12 to 16,000 years. And studying humans, we study what they need, how they survive, how they adapt to their environment. And I thought it'd be worth it to query you a little bit. What are our basic human needs? What do we need to survive?
Food. Shelter.
Food. What about dinner time, right? Well, let's first take food. Where do we live now?
Shelter.
What?
Florida.
Shelter. Sorry, in Florida. But what do we live in? Houses, apartments, condos. I'm staying at a hotel tonight, another form of shelter. You can have, even homeless have shelter. They might find a park bench, or somebody talked about highway overhangs, bridges. So there's a lot of different ways that we take shelter, houseboats, tents, that we do today. What's another basic need? Water. I tried to look it up too. I think you need, and correct me if I'm wrong, you need food within 5 days, you need water within like 48 hours. And here in Florida, in our extreme environment, it becomes such a overwhelming need to get water. Now, how do we get our water today?
Got a plastic bottle.
Right, it's a plastic bottle. The faucets, the wells, the cisterns, that kind of thing. And any other kind of basic human need that we all have?
A toilet.
Right. Sanitation, maybe some health. We have a comment of a toilet up here. So how we do waste management, perhaps. Safety. We want to keep ourselves safe, protection.
Reproduction.
Are we going to talk sex?
We do need to procreate, I suppose, to survive as a species. But that will be, I think, next Tuesday night. All right, so let's go back in time, a couple 100,000 years, and the Timucua Indians and their ancestors who lived here, how did they meet those basic needs of food?
Hunting and gathering.
They did hunting, they did gathering, and fish. I'm so glad to hear you say fish, oysters. There's some great drawings of great corn rows, cultivation, mass of it. That's actually kind of false, right? There was no grand scale cultivation of corn. We did have some corn and used decoratively, but and I had a homeschool group yesterday. They were trying to do a 3 sisters garden. I'm like, well, you're gonna at least get down to 2 sisters and maybe a little representative corn. But the oysters, the fish.
They didn't eat corn?
It got traded in, and they might have used some small cultigens, but there was no mass, not like the Plains Indians, not like in Southwest, not like in the Levant. There was no mass scale corn production. And if you want to talk to somebody more about corn, talk to Keith Ashley, who has given great conference papers like, where's the corn? The corn myth in Northeast Florida. He speaks very passionately because you find corn like in mounds as far as maybe a cob or two. or you find decorated pottery with cobs, but you just don't find mass scale production of corn. So for the food, hunting, gathering, using fishing weirs, etc. How about water? What would the Timucuans have done for water? Springs, the river, you know, portaging water in different containers or animal organs, using different things to hold water. And shelter. What was their shelter like?
Palm branches.
All right, some thatched cottages. I've seen some of the reproductions like they have at the Timucua Preserve, and where else do they have them? Some of the parks, but the thatched huts and how they would have done it. All right, so the tools that people use to make and get through what they need to survive, what kind of tools were they using for, let's go with shelter first.
How about
An
a
axe.
ball run?
Okay, axe, celts, knives, shell. One thing we forget about too a lot of time is cordage. They would have made a lot of fabric cordage and could have used it in place of where nails would go. How about for water? We kind of covered that a little bit. And then for food, what kind of tools did people use for food? Spears,
Axe.
axe, sticks,
Weird.
weirs, fishing weirs,
Fish nest.
fire drives, fish nets, traps, all these different kind of tools that they would have used. Well, moving ahead, the tools that Native American populations have were highly stylized, well-crafted toolkit. It's not just, you know, I think about my toolkit and what I have at home, and I've got a hammer and a screwdriver. It's a very diverse set of tools. A lot of things that are reworked, that start out as one thing and transition to something else. For the most part, from ethnographic information, I'll often use a he pronoun on some of the stone tools. It might have been more the males who were making that, but that's an interpretation I'm taking right now. Anyway, so here's some of the prehistoric toolkit, and then here's a academic write-up list of all the different kinds of tools. It was in a basic toolkit. You know, abraders, choppers, denticulates, drills, flaking tools. Now, to be a weapon, I asked my husband, who is more paleo-prehistoric period minded than I, and he said that it's kind of like a drill side, but it's got a serrated edge to it. So toothy. Yeah, making it toothy on the side. Perforators, knives, saws, scrapers, wedges. Anyway, so here's a great list of the different kinds of tools. Now, to be a weapon is a tool, but what's the distinction between just any tool and a weapon?
Weapons to kill.
Okay,
Protect yourself.
to kill, to protect, to maim, and to, I looked up, you know, because I want to be thorough, and it's to, with the intent of doing harm.
Injury, yeah.
So could my water bottle be considered a weapon? Could be, you know, like, it depends on the intent. We may not know if it's used as a weapon. You know, we had a Coke bottle another day, and I was thinking about the little plastic strings that go around that, and whether that's a tool. You hear about the ducks and things that get trapped into those. So it really depends on the intent of the user. Probably any artifact could be turned into a tool, but we only know from either making an analogy or ethnographic data, or if, we'll talk about later, when there's a spear point in a mastodon, you can go ahead and say that's a weapon.